that I expected to start at 6:30. Apparently they're in the middle of the meeting and they're waiting for me right now.
Ah,
Maybe, okay, I don't think that meeting's going to last very long. I will do my best to come back here.
Correctly and
to
then
you.
try again.
okay, because we will need your vote. I'm trying to
I don't know
reach,
what that message is.
Tom Mater.
In
What are you
the,
doing?
I will
Just
try to get back. Is it possible for me to give
Windows open,
Christian my
as in-
proxy?
Yeah, but it shouldn't be saying that.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Can I
I'm
do that?
on my own.
Christian, I'm not sure. I hear
You
some
know how
volume
I
and some
stay on
background
my stuff?
noise.
I do the same for
discussion?
everyone else. Yeah.
It's,
Okay, unless
it's not, anyway,
There-
I have to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Okay, so everyone who's on here, we're going to capture your names, and I believe that there's many students here. Welcome to the sustainability meeting for the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and I suppose that I will start the meeting. Let's see if I can do a screen. Try to.
what the
Ways of sharing the
why is
screen.
the virus scan for McAfee
Okay.
turned off?
There we are.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I ask during public comment for any of the students to just give me their name, school, and any other relevant information like their teacher?
Well, it turns out it's even easier. The attendees, you can just do a screenshot, and all of the names there you can submit to Lori Jacobs.
Don't eat that food.
So,
Don't do it. He just straight
Okay.
up didn't eat it.
all right. So, Carlos, Carlos Garcia, I think I've given you the ability to speak. If you would like to try that. Let's see. Hi,
This
Carlos.
is Carlos.
Great, fantastic. Hi, Carlos. So you're accessible on this phone call.
Okay.
So Christian, do you know of a way of how I can share this screen, my screen, and here we go. Here's the agenda. Can you see the agenda?
We
There we
can
go.
now.
Great, fantastic. So welcome everybody. Let's just introduce everybody. So I'm Gwendolyn Henry. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Committee for Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. Christian Guzman is going to be our moderator. Carlos Garcia, of course, is on the committee. Peter Rothe, some of you had seen him discuss the gardens, the garden church, and the Christensen, or the farm that's over at what used to be the Christensen Science Center. It's an LAUSD complex. He's also on the committee, and as is Tom Mater, whom I'm hoping to get on this call. So, and Mary Chan, of course, is considering being on the board, and I mean on the committee. So, welcome, Mary, and participating in this. She's also on the board, the Neighborhood Council Board, is a board member. So, for those of you who are students, we are always looking for committee members and people who are interested in activities. And we do a lot. Let me see if I can show you guys some of the things. We don't just work on on neighborhood council government things. Excuse me, guys. I have a beagle who's starting to make some noise. Gotta stop that. All right, thank you. Sorry. So we've in the past, this sustainability committee has kind of coordinated with the youth and outreach for a sustainability event, EcoFest in the fall and WildFest in the spring, which are, I don't know if any of you have been in it, but we always are looking for people for ideas on activities. We're looking for people who might be inspired to create a social media campaign for any environmental or sustainable informational thing that we can pass forward to our to the people in our community. Let me see if I can show you one thing I did. Let's see. I'm going to go back to the screen sharing. And there'll be a new share right here. Okay, this is going to be it. So I just created this myself. We have a mosquito problem. I don't know if any of you have been chewed by the little Zika 80s, the 80s mosquitoes, but in order to combat them, we have 2 different vector districts that are in San Pedro. So I created this just to get that information out in a, you know, in kind of a silly way, but informational way, and it's specific to our community. And if anybody has that kind of creativity, we're in for, you know, we're all for it. So definitely participate, and we would love your creativity in this. And that's a good way of getting some hours. All right, I guess that will be that. And we'll go back to sharing the agenda. If anyone here has any questions or has anything to speak on, or has any questions at any time, feel free to raise your hand. We eagerly would love any of you to participate in this. Let me go back to the agenda. There we go. All right. So all right. So we have our resolution, but since we are missing Peter and we're missing Tom for a moment, perhaps we can talk about one of the, some of the, oh, bear with me. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get him on the meeting. All right, he's there. He's just having problems. He's low tech, guys. All right, well, so there's an organization called the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, and that's a larger group. And when there are council files that come through the Los Angeles City Council, there are motions and all sorts of things that come through, and they want our neighborhood council feedback. So the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, they compile and glean anything that might have anything to do with environmental issues, sustainability issues, meaning housing and electrical grid, or, you know, anything like EV stations, things like that. And that group tries to come up with an advocacy item and share it amongst the different neighborhood councils. And they have suggestions on how to proceed on getting support by all of the neighborhood councils and get our voice in. So there are some things that are citywide, and then there are other items that might be more more targeted for one particular area, but sometimes another neighborhood council might want to provide support. So we have something that's vehicle idling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video for you. I'm also going to share the motion. Let's see. I'll try to bring that up. Bear with me. There's a few items to bring up. Here we go. Now, we're not going to vote on it now, but it's one of the things that we do get involved with. Oh, darn it.
Hearing all this stuff.
Currently, I only see the agenda.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the CIS that I created. And there might be a problem now. Oh my. Okay, let's see. Darn it. Oh, there it is. Great. Okay, bear with me. Too many windows open, guys. Thank you for your patience. Stop share. Share screen on. CIS. Okay. Can you see the CIS yet? Good. Okay. All right. So the deal is that a lot of cities have started to realize that vehicle idling is an issue. You know, a bunch of parents sit in front of a school and they all have their engines running. When trucks are sitting somewhere and they're just parked somewhere and the engine's running, the amount of fumes that go up in the air is pretty tremendous. It's actually very significant. So a lot of cities are starting to talk about people turning their engines off. Of course, most vehicles nowadays, you don't have to have them on to get the engine running, to warm them up or anything like that. The technology is greatly, improved. So that's not necessary, but people still kind of do that. They just leave the engine on. So the city council has come up with a motion to possibly restrict truck idling, and also try to create a promotional campaign in order to get the word out to the communities, the city, as to, shut your engine down, which is pretty clever. And I did want to show you guys one, which I thought was really cute. Let's see if I can pick it up. It's in here. Okay, there's the link. Guys, the windows are just insane over here, so hold on. Hmm.
In the meanwhile, I'll just give some public testimony that I do like to ride my bicycle, and oftentimes if I ride past the trucks along Wilmington or the Herrick bridges, there are trucks sometimes parked and idling, and you can smell the fumes, and it's hot and noisy. Sometimes in Harbor City, there are trucks idling near schools. Normont Elementary is one where they really like to go for some reason, and definitely you can smell it.
Oh, I don't think it'll let me do an online page. That's a problem. Oh, that's too bad. It'll let me do everything but that. All right, well, anyway. So the CIS is to support that. We're going to be going through that a little bit more because here in the harbor area, we have the additional concerns of all of the trucks that come through the port. And there have been times where trucks have actually parked near schools and things like that. And so there's another organization called the Harbor Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. And so I've already talked to a couple of the people in some of the other neighborhood councils in our area to possibly come up with a really great letter and CIS in respect to this motion, motion that is up before the board. So currently what it is it's just a very simple thing. You have some information that is a standard form. And then the summary is, and you just have a quick statement that in this case, the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council supports preparation of an ordinance that would restrict parked heavy-duty truck idling and preparation, truck idling and preparation of a marketing campaign to publicize the health consequences of needless idling. The ordinance, when prepared, should include emphasis on strict enforcement, which means fines, and some cities, such as New York, have instituted fines, and they actually have an incentive where if you report trucks idling and you can get evidence, you can possibly get a reward for this. So on strict enforcement and carry significant financial penalties for non-compliance. So there are a couple of cities that do have fines, and they've instituted that. There's one city that has made a 311 app, and in that you can actually report right on the 311, just like the My LA 311 app, and you can report it right then and there. So that's where Los Angeles is going. So hopefully we can clean up our air significantly with this. In the meantime,
I have a
sorry.
question.
Yes.
Hi, Wen. So, because I was reading on it, the councilman wanted to do car idling in general, but our letter is really for trucks. So, is it really for trucks only?
That, once again, that CIS, we're not voting on it right now because we're going to have more thoughts on it, both in the community and but in our area, we do have a significant impact of trucks. So
Yes. Well, that's my concern because really the focus for trucks out significantly more than a regular car. And the mission is so much bigger, like Christian have said, and I've seen trucks idling too along different areas.
Correct. So there is no, I mean, there are rules on the book, but there is actually no penalty in relation to it yet. So we would definitely want to institute within the city of Los Angeles some kind of disincentive to idling at this point. And, but at the same time, I'm sorry that I can't show the promotional item. Let's see, the link that I had, maybe you guys can write it down or screenshot it. Did I remove the motion so it's no longer visible?
Yes, we cannot see it anymore.
All right, hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay, right up at the top here. The website is all one word, iturnitoff.com.
Oh,
And there's a cute video and also a pledge, an interactive pledge on saying that we'll turn off, you know, the moms and the parents and the hopefully even the school buses will turn off their, I think the schools are already mandated, they must turn off their engines. That is a requirement. So it's iturnitoff.com/school.html #pledge. Great little thing. It's a great promotional item. There's some others from some other cities, which are really cool, but this one is very informational and I thought it was particularly good. And I'm sorry that I can't share it. So bear with me one more time. I'm going to get Tom, hopefully. Tom, meeting. Okay, people,
can't hear
I'm
you.
right now in the middle of being talking to you and everybody's staring at me, so gotta go. I'll see you
If he
soon.
were to be on speaker, he could still vote, I think. We
Yes.
would be able to hear him.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
Well, we'll see if he makes it. If not, I'll do speakerphone. That is true. We'll make it happen. His computer apparently futzed out, so it's just a mess. Anyway,
Well, if he can call you, he can call into the meeting. We just have to get him the number.
yeah, well, let's see what we can do again. All righty. So let me go to the, let's see. So the rest of the motions, there really isn't much to speak about. Possibly review them, and we'll likely have a CIS for the next meeting in November. So for example, yeah, my screen share is paused. So resume share, turn that off, come back. And back to the agenda. All right. So the rest of the CISs, you can find them online on our website, and each of the blue links are clickable, and it'll take you directly to a city council file, and you can take a look at it yourself, what it says. So that's something for all of the students that are here. Just explore your city council and all of the files that come through. There's a lot of stuff. Some of you have probably already gone to some other committees and discussed some other council files. It's pretty amazing, all of the different concepts that come through there. One of my favorites is there was a motion to create an entire department called the Department of Biodiversity. And essentially now there is a whole group of scientists and biologists, and they're compiling all of the species that are within the city borders. And everybody who has a phone, if you get on iNaturalist, which is an app, and
Oh, I
you
have
start
it.
taking pictures of all of the creatures that are around you, even if it's just a worm, it doesn't really matter. You're collecting and compiling data in the city of Los Angeles that is
Hello?
We can't hear you, Gwen.
Hi, can't hear you.
This is Tom Mater. I just logged on.
What?
Oh, hello,
Gwen?
Tom. Gwen is speaking, but we cannot hear her.
Oh,
Let me put that to her in the chat.
Okay.
yeah. Welcome. Very strange.
Yeah, let me give her a text, see what happens there.
Questions, probably haven't yet done it because you're busy. Well, why don't you pull them over, cruise them now? That's the right thing to do.
It's not the questions I can't.
Hello? Hello? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're,
Yeah, I texted her to tell her that we couldn't hear her. So we'll see what happens. Tried calling
Yeah,
her, but
raise
she
my
didn't
hand.
answer it.
Mhm.
we should all meet in a big open space.
Gwen?
Say you don't want.
I have a gray square on the screen
Me too.
share. Do all of you see that also,
I
or is it just
I do too,
my
Christian.
screen? Oh, okay.
I do too, Christian. This is
Try
Mary.
calling her again.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yes. I raised my hand.
She's calling me.
Okay.
I'm talking to her. We're gonna sort it out. 1 second. Okay, so Mary, you're the co-host. I'm the host. When I think is gonna leave and then re-enter the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Christian.
Okay, she left, so now she's just gonna re-enter. 1 second, everyone. Thank you.
So I was just looking at the iturnitoff.com that Gwen suggested. One of the first thing I saw was 2 minutes spent idling is equal to 1 mile of driving. That's astonishing.
Yeah, it definitely has to do with the inefficiency of a car engine when it's not going a certain speed. They tend to operate less efficient, so it does result in more fumes.
For sure. But sometimes when I'm at a red light and I know it's a long red light, I actually turn off my engine. I have an old car. Anyways, I think Gwen's coming back.
10 minutes.
Yes, I made her the host, so we should be able to see her momentarily.
Yeah, why not? You know what they're doing.
Okay, Gwen, I made you the host.
I'm doing it. The thing I said, if they say something, I'm gonna say, you know what, these kids are on
I remember
practically
in
all
middle
day.
school, just deliberately wanting to, yeah, kind of done for like the next 10 minutes. I'm just gonna go wander.
Question?
We still can't hear you, Gwen.
How do I see her? You see? I don't see her video.
I see her video. No one sees Gwen's video. I see her video. Mary, you can't see Gwen?
I can see her, but I cannot hear her.
Okay. Gwen, if you can hear us, what you can always do is mute your microphone, turn off your speakers, and then just call into the meeting.
Oh, I wrote her, no. Uh-huh. Christian, I don't think she's on the panel.
Yeah, I
She's not on
think
the-
she left again. She'll probably try to re-enter once. There she is. I see her again.
Alrighty.
Wow.
Yes.
We heard you for a second.
Yeah,
Just unmute now. Okay, we can hear you again.
Oh, thank God. All right, guys. I have Tom Mater on the line as well. So now we can get going. All right, Carlos, I hope you're there. Let's get
Yes,
moving.
I am.
Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to try to share the screen again. All panelists. All right. And let's get the resolution up. All right. So are you able to see the resolution?
We can see it.
Fantastic. All right. So this is in regards to a facility that maybe we should also elevate Ron Conroe on this, if Ron Conroe is a stakeholder over at Rancho LPG.
Okay.
So you can elevate him to speak. Now, this resolution came up last week, and what we're asking for is for the governor of California, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, and various other entities to reassess the risks of the facility based on a variety of causes. Now, what's happened is that I don't know if all of you are aware of the explosion in Beirut. That was a significant explosion, and what happened there was everybody passed the buck. There was a responsibility to a very volatile chemical, or more like fertilizer, that was in a storage facility, and each of the different organizations in charge of this stored volatile material just kind of kept passing the buck. It was a whole series of scenarios that were very unfortunate. And what happened is it sat there and ignited and exploded. And we're concerned that there are certain risk analysis as far as the transport of butane tanks near the region. We have Phillips 66 that's nearby. There's all sorts of volatile industries all combined in the area, and we're just concerned about the central position of Rancho LPG to all of these other elements. And one thing that had also recently come to the surface is that the USGS had discovered a third fault, a slip strike fault. It's called the Wilmington. Yeah, it's called the Wilmington fault. And this adds just one more dimension to possibilities of things going wrong in our area. And so, I'm sorry? So we have a resolution asking each of these entities to please reassess the risks for Rancho. And Tom, you are on the call, correct? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So I don't know if we need to read it out. It's a fairly long one. What do you think, Carlos?
Well, just by way of background, embellish on what you said, at the September 17th meeting, we had a discussion with Ron, and he had some questions, and so we attempted to address those questions in a second draft. And there was a joint sustainability committee meeting on October 13th. So in order for us to discuss the revised draft, we placed it on the agenda for today's meeting, but it was not discussed in detail at the joint sustainability committee meeting. So we have the opportunity to continue revising and refining it to make it more clear. In that process, we became a little bit smarter, and it does have a little more complexity in terms of, you'll read in there about maximum ground acceleration, which is part of the risk analysis in the case of an earthquake. So the resolution before you is the one prepared for the October 13th joint committee meeting, and the red line changes in the crossouts reflect changes after that October 13th meeting.
Okay, so, well, we should read it because what's happening is that Carlos was the author of this document. And between the time of the posting of some of the revisions that were based on some feedback from Ron Conroe, there were, Carlos had assessed and come up with some new changes. And so, what we really need right now is a motion to assess the amendments for the document, which his suggestions are here in red. There's just some rephrasing and things like that. Should we read through the document with the revisions? Or should there be a motion to
can.
entertain the revisions?
Well, it's very difficult for me to look at this document because, yeah.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll read it through. All right. But we do need I would hope that we do have a motion, Tom, Carlos, maybe myself, in entertaining the revisions
Mhm.
to this document.
Peter's back too, by the way.
Huh?
Peter is back also.
Gwen,
Oh, hi, Peter.
And there he is.
Yeah. I move that the committee review the document as amended at this time.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tom seconds that. All right, so we'll read through it. So it's a resolution addressing the risks posed by the Rancho LPG storage facility to the harbor area. So whereas the recent disaster in Beirut, Lebanon's main port, where 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate exploded, resulting in great damage to that city and port, whereas 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate has the energy equivalent of approximately 77,000 gallons of butane. Whereas the risk posed by the Rancho LPG storage facility to the LA harbor area is much greater, where 25 million gallons of liquid butane can be stored, and that is 60,625 tons in 2 refrigerated tanks each, with a maximum capacity of 12.5 million gallons. Whereas Rancho LPG's risk assessment calculates a blast radius of half a mile in a worst case scenario based on federal regulatory guidance that limits evaporation to 10 minutes before a vapor cloud explosion if an impound basin is present to contain all or some of the released butane. And let me just explain that for some of the students. That there's a worst case scenario assessment that's been that's on file that that says that there's a calculated blast radius of about a half a mile. With the containment, there's these containment barriers that surround the tanks, and with those in place, that's what this particular federally filed risk assessment states. So, and whereas San Pedro and Peninsula Homeowners United questions the efficacy of an impound basin in maintaining the butane in a liquid state, and therefore uses alternative regulatory guidance, which requires that 10% of the available energy of all of the stored butane be used to calculate the blast radius of a vapor cloud explosion. Accordingly, San Pedro and Peninsula Homeowners United calculates a 3-mile blast radius in a worst case scenario. And we have that footnoted, that particular document. Okay, whereas San Pedro Peninsula Homeowners United petitioned the Environmental Protection Agency in May 2016 to eliminate the May 1999 change to the rule for hazardous materials under worst case analysis to limit the release time to 10 minutes and accept the use of an impound basin as a proper safety mitigation measure for a vaporous, heavy, rapidly expanding butane gas that cannot be captured in any effective way. So that was a submission by the Homeowners Association. They had attempted to well, this one, can you explain that briefly, Carlos, as to
Well,
what?
yes, they petitioned because they question the two grounds for using the alternative calculation, assuming 10% of the energy that was released in the first 10 minutes. Not, well, just the amount of the gas released in 10 minutes before determining the extent of a vapor cloud explosion. And just as an aside, when I looked at the risk management plan prepared by Rancho LPG, that's exactly what they did. There's a model that they can use. It's called RMP count, and that blast radius does calculate to the half mile, but it's based on those other criteria: the release in the first 10 minutes and the use of an impound basin. And the American Petroleum Institute had actually sued the EPA for them to make this change, which was equivalent to the same formula used to evaluate toxic gases versus flammable gases like butane and propane.
Sorry, guys. So there is another calculation that the EPA has that is more to this particular scenario. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, that evaluates a similar worst case scenario where there is no impound basin available to capture the liquid butane as it leaks out of the tank.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Carlos. So the next is, and this is where the amendments start. Whereas the Rancho LPG storage facility is within the rupture zone of the Palos Verdes fault, which is capable of generating a 7.3 magnitude earthquake. And that's a thought. Then whereas the builder of the tanks designed the butane storage tanks for a maximum ground acceleration of 0.04 G-force? Yes, G-force. Based on a 5.5 to 6.0 magnitude earthquake. But there also was a consultant's opinion was that it could possibly withstand up to a 7.2 earthquake with ground acceleration of 0.38 Gs. Nevertheless, the Public Utility Staff in its September 1977 safety report on the facility could not rule out that within their lifetime, the tanks might experience an earthquake of such magnitude that it would damage both tanks and spilling the contents. And we do have that footnoted, those particular aspects are footnoted. So what we have is, we have 3 faults now, one of which was just introduced. And one of the faults has a potential of a magnitude of 7.3. And the builders of the tank actually designed it for a level that within certain parameters of 0.4 Gs, it could handle a 5.5 to 6.0 magnitude earthquake, and with the possibility of going greater. So we're just concerned that this may need a new reassessment. So yeah.
When can I add that footnote? There was a GAO report that was written in 1978, and part of the request Congress gave for that report was to evaluate the storage tanks at Rancho LPG. And there they came up with their own analysis based on their own consultant, which said that they believe that those tanks could withstand a maximum acceleration of 0.65 Gs before leakage or failure at the bottom of tanks. And that equates to a 7.0 on the Richter scale. So what we have is 3 different analyses giving various conclusions based on different computer models. So.
Yeah, and part of our concern was that we have 3 different computer models with 3 different analyses and 3 different results. And so therefore we would like to have one that's more definitive, correct?
That would be the question, yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then here's the last of the revisions. Whereas the Rancho LPG facility is also within the rupture zone of the Wilmington Blind Thrust Fault, that's the new one, capable of generating a 6.3 magnitude earthquake. And this is the important part. Potential linkages with the other nearby faults, the Huntington Beach, Torrance, Compton faults, pose the threat of a larger multi-segment event up to the magnitude 7.3 earthquake that would also directly impact the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach. So it isn't just that there's a new fault, but there is also the potential, and this was written into the USGS report, that each one could rupture on their own and create their own event, but they also could rupture in combination, creating a more significant event up to 7.3 earthquake, but it would be more in a longer area. It could impact San Pedro more, or connect all the way. So something over in Torrance might actually rupture all the way up to and past and into the harbor. So we're concerned about these new possible connectivity and new earthquakes. Anyway, so the rest of this. Whereas the Port of Los Angeles does not include in its risk management plan an evaluation of the risk posed by the routine rail transport of propane from the Rancho LPG facility over port rail lines, since it's not required to do so by the California Coastal Commission. Whereas the LAUSD, the schools, the LA Unified School District.
Gwen?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Could I interject something there that it draws a significant comparison with, in the case of a rail car that holds about 30,000 gallons of butane, where there is no nearby impoundment basin. When you do the calculation using RMP comp, the blast radius there is 0.4 of a mile compared to the worst case analysis for one of the 12.5 million gallon butane storage tanks. We're using RMP comp and including the availability of a impoundment basin. The blast radius is 0.5 mile. So that raises other questions.
Correct. In other words, yeah, there's a little footnote there. You see that little 5 there at the end of that sentence. What Carlos was talking about is that which organization was it? It was that was calculated by I can't remember which organization, but we do have the documentation. One little rail car.
Rancho LPG is also in their analysis of a explosion. When a rail tank car is involved, they also calculated a 0.5 mile blast radius. But I use the RMP comp program that's on the EPA website to calculate this 0.4 mile blast radius. So we're comparing 30,000 gallons of butane that was released in an accident involving a 30,000 gallon rail tank car versus the 12.5 million gallons that would be the basis for the calculation of the blast radius using the equivalent 10% TNT equivalent model to come up with a different blast radius. And the difference, again, as we've gone over it, is a half mile in Rancho's risk management plan, which again, I repeat, they follow the RMP, they use the RMP comp program versus another analysis also using RMP comp, where there is no available impound basin where you get the blast radius of that, as we quote in there, of the 3 miles.
In other words, what Carlos is saying is that there's this number crunching that's happened, and we have a tank car filled with butane. It looks like a big pill. It's holding a certain amount of butane within it, and if something happened to it that was pretty disastrous, the explosion of that little rail car would be about a half a mile. And what we have is that the official documentation for those huge tanks that are up on the hill, the blast radius for those tanks in relation to the rail car, you got those other ones over here, its blast radius has been calculated to also be half a mile. So I don't know if any of you can think of a rail car and then a butane storage facility with millions of gallons of that. And apparently, officially, by the book and what's been submitted online to the government, they both have the same explosion, size, based on the parameters of the catch basin and the safety precautions that have been put around that tank. Both have a half mile. And sometimes it's kind of hard to imagine that a butane rail car might have the same blast radius as the tank, that large storage tank. Yes, Mary.
When Mary has a question.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to ask, why are they even there? Can we not ask a motion to remove them altogether? Is that not possible?
Well, the LAUSD has recently actually had that request. They actually did reach out, and you come to a very good point. We do have a reference to the request of relocation. So
And can that not be also top of in the letter, which is incredible, Carlos, by the way? But is that possible to put in there as one of the top paragraphs? Because we really don't want this to be there.
Well, right now, there are different organizations that are discussing that right now, but what we're trying to address is that right now, while they're there, we are concerned about the conditions that exist right now. I mean, that there's that they pose a danger, and we want all of these organizations to assess that. And we do believe that based on all of these different parameters, that somebody should be taking responsibility for doing a final risk analysis, introduce and add the Wilmington blind thrust fault as part of this analysis, and take responsibility. The LAUS anyway. So what we're doing right now, this is just one component of it. We're not asking for them to be removed at the moment, but we're asking for a final risk analysis and an evacuation plan for our community.
Yeah, which is
exactly. I mean, and if it comes out that it's like, well, we'll all be burned to a crisp, well, then we really do have to recognize. But this is a very sensitive area, and in its placement is very close to the Port of Los Angeles. There's a lot of economic impacts should there be an earthquake. So we just want all of the organizations to take responsibility for their part and not allow something like what happened in Beirut happen. We want the assurances that everybody has taken the responsibility, because that's what happened in Beirut. It was out of sheer passing the buck. And we're concerned about this.
Madam Chair, I saw Peter with a hand.
Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mary, I see what we're doing here as an incremental step. I would very much imagine that if we had a thorough risk assessment, I would imagine it's going to show the danger to be far more significant than the current understatement. And at that point, I believe that a risk assessment of that sort would lead to further action to actually have the tanks removed.
Or relocated or whatever.
Yes. Relocated.
However it is chosen to. Anyway, all right. So thank you, Carlos, for pointing out the that particular aspect as far as the comparison of a butane tank to the entire storage tanks themselves. Next sentence, whereas the LAUSD unanimously approved a January 12, 2016 resolution that the Rancho LPG storage facility be relocated because of the risk it poses to nearby schools, and invoked that there is a letter that invoked the Beirut blast in a recent letter to the LA Fire Department calling for a new assessment of the site's vulnerability during an earthquake. And whereas under Education Code section 17251, the California Department of Education requires preparation of a rail safety study if a school site is within 1,500 feet of a rail easement transporting hazardous commodities. Whereas in a March 3rd, 2017 decision, the Surface Transportation Board provided guidance on preemption issues that would unreasonably burden or interfere with rail transportation. It also recognized that such preemption is not unlimited. States and localities retain their police powers to protect the public safety and health. So what that's saying is that the city of Los Angeles, the state of California, do have a certain amount of power to protect the community, even if the Surface Transportation Board normally has jurisdiction over a particular aspect of rail transport. So there is accessibility for the people that we're asking, the governor and the mayor, to address these issues with the transport of the butane across the rails. Whereas, next one, in a February 20th, 2018 letter to the California State Lands Commission, the Attorney General wrote that if the commission cannot find a public trust violation, its only recourse is to report the port's activities to the legislature. In that case, the legislature would be empowered to revoke or amend the 1911 granting status, but that the commission would have no present power to take direct action to address the rail spur while the legislature assesses the appropriate path forward. And Carlos, I will leave it to you to explain a little bit about that.
Well, there's more than just passing the buck. That was the State Lands Commission requested an opinion from the Attorney General, and this was the its summary of its conclusion that because they could not find a public trust violation, then they would have to resort to legislation by the California legislature to determine what to do. So that makes sense. So what we're trying to do is present all the equities involved in the various positions and the context for our request that we're making in the subsequent ask.
So this is addressing a particular communication that we've had dialogue in the contesting of portions of where the butane tanks go, who's in charge and who's got the responsibility, and everybody's been passing the buck from one to the other. And we're like, okay, this is what we've gotten before. And so we're kind of saying, this is what we've gotten, and it's time to stop passing the buck on the transport and who's responsible. So therefore, the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council requests that the governor, the mayor of Los Angeles, the Port of Los Angeles, and the LAUSD each take steps to ensure that the various risks posed by the operation of the Rancho LPG storage facility are reevaluated, and that the governor and mayor ensure that such renewed efforts are coordinated with the appropriate California state and local agencies, the commissions, the California legislature, and the relevant federal departments and agencies. Also, that was our ask. Also, the following items should be considered for immediate action. 1, the conversion of the existing temporary month-to-month Westmont, that's the street, Westmont Rail Spur operating agreement to a long-term lease with all the terms of such an agreement, including a new risk assessment. 2, the amendment of the operating agreement and rail spur permit to reflect the transport of hazardous material. And why is that, Carlos?
Because it is hazardous. Okay. And there are other issues involved in why the Coastal Commission has been reluctant to require a risk analysis of rail transport within the port and off-site. And but that gets into another series of complexities that we don't have to deal with now.
Okay, we're almost done here. 3, the amendment of the operating agreement and rail spur permit to include insurance commensurate with the risk for that use, considering its dangerous nature, in close proximity to a dense population, and the fair market value of property assets subject to harm from such an accident. Well, I said such, but and then 4th, the hiring of a consultant by the LAUSD to prepare the required safety studies for the schools near the Rancho LPG facility, including an evacuation plan and reasonable mitigation measures. So we're trying to help support the LAUSD's requests to address the conflicts that they have within their own statutes about being so close to a facility that poses danger to students. So we're supporting them in that 4th one. So that's going to be addressed to Gavin Newsom, Eric Garcetti, Jean Soroka, the executive director of POLA, and Austin Bootner. Sorry, sir. Superintendent of the LAUSD. And there will be a CC of other entities, federal entities and such like that we think would be interested in this request. So that's it with the amendments. And I hope you guys understood all of that. Are there any questions? Ron? Christian, are you going to be able to do that?
Ron's here.
He
Do I
raised his
unmute
hand.
him?
He raised his hand. Let me see. Thank you, Ron. Hold on, bear with me.
Okay, there you go. Can you hear me?
Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you, Ron.
Okay, first of all, we don't store ammonium nitrate at our facility, nor have we ever, nor are we permitted to do so. How did somebody come up? I'd like to see the equation, how you came up with 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate has the energy equivalent of 77,000 gallons of butane. Do you have the math on that?
Yes, we do.
What's the math on that?
I can't go into detail here, but it was a risk analysis expert that provided that information to San Pedro Homeowners United.
What's the homeowners, excuse me, what's San Pedro Homeowners United have to do with this particular?
Well, they provided
resolution?
the San Pedro Homeowners United requested that calculation, I think from Dr. Carl Southwell, USC, because they had prepared a resolution or a letter that was presented to the Dunn, the Harbor Area, the HANC, the Association of Local Harbor Area Neighborhood Councils. So I had that information. I've seen the numbers.
Yeah, I have that letter too. That goes back to about 2010, 2011.
I think the more current one, it was this year.
We reviewed that letter.
They made the calculations to equate the TNT equivalent between ammonium nitrate and butane. That was the basis for that calculation.
Okay, ammonium nitrate is an explosive, and it has a different energy capability and content than does butane. Butane is a regulated flammable substance. And to what you would be trying to do is say that you could take 77,000 gallons of butane, mix it with a perfect stoichiometric value of air, equal amount to the upper and lower flammability limits, find an energy source, and then explode all of that at once.
Well, at least 10% of it based on those calculations.
Well, not 10%. You're saying 77,000 gallons has that same energy equivalent. It does not.
Well, when I use the RMP comp to estimate what the blast radius was in the calculations that Rancho LPG made using RMP comp, I came up with, I think it was about, it's in one of the footnotes, about 90 tons. So anyway, to come up with a similar blast radius.
Yeah, it's still not an energy equivalency.
Well, you know, I'm not expert enough to
I am.
To do that. Well, these were the calculations that we were using at the time. If you want to submit alternative calculations, we are always free to do that, Ron.
Now, then you're stating here the risk posed by Rancho storage, et cetera, et cetera. Then you're saying Rancho's risk assessment calculates a blast radius of 0.5 miles in a worst case scenario. That is not our risk assessment. That is an assessment that uses strict calculations and standards, mandates by the EPA. And the EPA has not only validated, they've calculated our worst case scenario on two occasions.
Well, Ron, I've been to the EPA website. I've seen the program that they make available. It's very simple. You just plug in some numbers and you get that calculation. So I confirm that. We're not questioning. This is from your RMP. We're not questioning the way you calculated it. You follow their guidelines, and it does produce, you know, basically because of the use of an impound basin and the amount that's released in the first 10 minutes, the equivalent of 90 tons of butane. So.
Okay,
May I ask
who is
a
the
question?
regulatory agency that Congress put give oversight to the risk management plan?
May I ask a question here? Ron, you're saying that so that statement is incorrect. How should it read regarding?
No, wait a
No,
Wait
you
a
can,
second,
you can
Gwen.
have it read any way you want it. You're going to move forward with this. I've got responses already prepared. In fact, I've sent it to the city attorney last week. So,
So that's.
Okay, thank you.
about 17
Well, but
pages.
anyway, I think
I
the
send
point is-
calculations and scientific information for every one of these points. And I don't make assumptions. I use what the law is and what the calculations are.
Okay,
I don't make assumptions. And again, the EPA has validated that 0.5 miles as being accurate.
and we
Well,
acknowledge
Ron,
this. We acknowledge
we
it
acknowledge-
within this document. Yeah, we're acknowledging that
Okay.
within the document. That's not being contested in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, but you are contestant, because then you say, whereas the San Pedro Peninsula Homeowners United, which I don't think they have anybody on that group that has any background in petroleum industry, has a chemical engineering degree or a certified safety professional. But anyway, questions the efficiency, efficacy of the impound basin. The impoundment basin is a mandated requirement under the National Fire Protection Agency Association, NFPA Code 58, as well as API 2510, as well as EPA 40 CFR 68, and a whole host of other regulations. It would not be mandated if it didn't work.
Right. Well, Ron, I know San Pedro Homeowners United. One of their members is Connie Rudder, who did work in the oil industry and did work on risk analysis. And I'm pretty sure the calculations that I got from San Pedro Homeowners United were from Dr. Carl Sothwell, and who did his PhD dissertation in this area. So those are the numbers we got. And we don't have the ability to independently critique those. We're just saying what the various analyses show.
Yeah,
and even using RMP comp.
Let me give you a quote here, right? From the EPA Region 9 attorney, right? From a letter, and this is a legal document from the Region 9 attorney to our Plains attorney. And it says, dated December 10th, 2013, EPA attorney Helmlinger clearly states that the EPA has in fact calculated Rancho's RMP to be 0.5 miles and not 3.0 miles as Ms. Gunter asserts, based upon EPA regulatory formula.
That was based on the EPA guidance that was adopted to include the efficacy of an impound basin. And that was what San Pedro Homeowners United in their petition and letter to the Environmental Protection Agency questioned. They never got a response from the EPA. And as I recall, a retired official from District 9 has also, I guess after its requirement, had some questions about that. So we're not questioning how calculated it, Ron. And I think one of the questions that needs to be addressed is the issue raised by San Pedro Homeowners United about the efficacy of an impound basin. And you read in the recent LA Times article where the reporter questioned other experts and who did raise questions about the risk analysis.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Hold that thought, Ron. You can continue. Christian's had his hand raised for quite a while, and I would love to have him.
Thank you. I think it's very good for us to seek accurate numbers and facts. The measure of the motion, the ultimate goal here is the resolution. It's expressing that there is a concern by the community. And we can always amend some of those early whereases to completely remove, if we wanted to, any reference to a specific figure which could be in question. But according to the resolution, we do want a study We want a new risk assessment. The public has a right, if they have a concern, to ask for the risk assessment. The resolution and the motion on the table specifically today was to go over the amendments. I don't think we were talking about the amendments earlier when Mr. Conroe and Carlos were speaking. But ultimately, I think we do want to pass the resolution, and maybe we want to talk more about the resolved part, because that is the actual ask.
But before we go on, I anticipated Ron's comments, and they're legitimate comments. But then I was able to use RMP comp, and looking at Rancho's LP risk analysis, I knew the capacity they were using in their analysis, and I used RMP comp, and I can read the, let me read footnote 2. In its risk management plan,
Hold on.
LP analysis used 28,500 tons as a butane tank's administrative capacity, which is less than the tank's 30,300 ton maximum capacity. If 28,500 tons is used to calculate a blast radius when an impound basin is not considered as a factor, RMP comp program and generates a 3.1 mile blast radius. So it's using the same RMP comp program that Rancho did in its calculations. It's just based on a different assumption. It's basically on the efficacy of an impound basin, which is what is dispute.
Okay, first of all, in EPA 40 CFR 68.25, and it's quite a lengthy section there in 0.25, there's actually 3 scenarios for regulated flammable substances. One of them involves pressurized tanks, such as a rail car, such as a pressurized vessel, or a steel tank truck. The second scenario is involving refrigerated storage and a release of that product without an impound basin, right? And the third scenario is refrigerated storage being released and captured and contained in an impound basin. Those are the 3 scenarios within that 0.25 there in EPA 4668. And so we're using the correct scenario.
And is that scenario effective for 2 tanks rupturing?
No, the EPA guidance only requires the evaluation of one
The
tank.
largest tank.
Yeah, and so therefore, Ron, you do appreciate that there are a lot of other things. So we talked about this before. To no fault of ranchos in any way. There are other elements outside of Rancho LPG's control. There's transport of the butane on rail lines. There have been some derailments. There's an additional fault that has been introduced to the equation. We do have Phillips 66, which we don't mention in this document, but should be, its location may pose concern to Rancho LPG as well. We have all of these different elements, and that we're just making an ask based on all of these different things that a reassessment be done. That's all we're asking for.
Well, there won't be a reassessment, I can assure you of that, because Congress, the United States Congress, has put the EPA and given them oversight back in 1990 of the Federal Risk Management Plan. That is the law for 12,800 different facilities and businesses in the United States. You cannot single out any one facility and make a specific law for that facility. I believe in the Co-Sustainability Committee meeting a couple of months ago, the representative from Ms. Berrigan, Congresswoman Berrigan, kind of stated that fact, that when they tried to go before a subcommittee with in the House Appropriations. And so I'm just telling you, I mean, you can say hey, I've got the answers, I got the responses, I'll win. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, if you notice in this document, we also address the concerns about the routine rail transport of propane over the rail line.
Gwen,
That's right.
Gwen, and it's a little hard if you don't have the document in hand to read, but we do address Ron's concerns, and he is right that this ultimately may include a look at and a revision of the EPA guidance 6825. We recognize in the six whereas clause. So
Right.
Trying to lay out the state of the discussion. That's all. And the other issues that may arise from this beyond this ask and this resolution are matters of a different order, as Peter pointed out. So anyway.
Right. So, I mean, I appreciate, Ron, basically you're saying we're tilting at windmills, but we do have
do your due diligence. I have to do mine.
Yeah, we do have concerns, and all we're ever asking for is risk analysis. And again, I believe that with this new fault that is running in between two recognized faults and is even that much closer, and that they're based on the structural components of the tanks and their capacity to withstand an earthquake, we're getting very close to, even with this new estimation of, well, it could conceivably withstand a 7.3 magnitude, that we do have some elements now that I believe that we need a reassessment. And once again, we would like to support the LEOSD and their concerns. They did write their own communication that the Beirut explosion has given them cause to be concerned over their charges, which are children. And so they too would like an assessment, because that is a significant event. And even though it's a different material, do understand that the proximity of those schools to the tanks is closer. So it's within a realm of half a mile explosion could really, some kind of damage that really is of great concern, even with those estimations. And the fact that the evacuation plans, and for LEOSD, they are concerned about the evacuation plans. They don't feel that they've been informed enough about this. And frankly, our own neighborhood council has tried to elicit evacuation plans, and there are none forthcoming that are of any ability for us to even act upon, and even draw out evacuation plans on a map for our community. So these are things that we're asking for.
And Gwen and Ron, I do remember reading in the recent LA Times article where the company spokesman also said that they would be open to a reassessment. So, but Ron is correct. There are issues here that go way beyond, the purview of simply redoing the risk analysis without consideration of the underlying worst case scenarios in the EPA guidance. So there are big issues involved.
Yeah. So Ron, do you see anything in that as to our concerns and how we're approaching this? Ron, are you available?
Hello?
Tom, you're there. Hold on. I was talking to Ron, and let's see if I can get him back on.
He's there.
Yeah, he's still muted.
I think Gwen, Mary has had.
I have
her
a quick
hand up.
question.
Yeah.
I do.
Yes.
Can this letter be also be sent to Attorney General Xavier Becerra due to the environmental and public health issue?
Yes, we may already have them on the list. I will.
Oh, because the letter didn't say that. Okay, thank you.
There is a letter, there is a brief letter with this. That's a cover letter, and we should read that. But we wanted to really air out all of the concerns of the resolution itself.
No, I understand, but thank you.
Okay. And
Gwen, I have a question.
yes,
If Ron feels that we're, as you so aptly put it, tilting at windmills, if he feels that there's no possibility of another risk assessment, why is he parading the specter of attorneys? Why has he brought their ghost into the room? If he feels that what we're doing is futile, I wonder. First of all, I wonder about that, and then I also think that our document is not primarily a scientific document. That's not the purpose of our document. Our document is designed to express concern and discrepancies and add new factors into the situation, and that's the reason we're not posing. I hope we're not posing as scientific experts. That would be a mistake.
no, we are not. We're just presenting. Yes.
And so for us to spend time debating Ron on the scientific issues, I think it's a waste of time. But anyway, that's his approach. That's going to be his approach.
Correct.
With that, I would be tempted to move the previous question.
Yes.
That eloquent speech.
Well, in this case, Ron, I can't seem to unmute you. Christian, do you have that capacity?
I pressed ask to unmute. I'm going to try it again. I think when you press that, it allows the user to figure out if they want to unmute or not. So
Yeah.
Okay. I see. I thought I saw him unmute for a second.
Yeah, it looked like it blipped, and we will wait for you, Ron. In the meantime, while we're at it, we still have on the table motion to entertain the amendments. Can we go ahead and vote? And this would also be you, Tom Mader, who's been very patient on my mobile phone, to vote on the amendments as presented. So I believe that we should go ahead and vote. So Carlos, would you, Carlos, are you, what's your vote for the amendments?
Yes. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to raise the motion, but I would vote in support of that motion.
Yes, the motion has already been posted, and so that is your vote. Tom, what is your vote for the amendments? Aye. Peter?
I vote aye. I approve the amendments.
And so do I. So we have unanimous on the amendments. And now, Ron, we're still waiting for you. You actually seem to be.
We've already approved it. The discussion is ended at this point. I think the only thing that remains is to approve the cover letter.
So we had the bit of approving the amendments, and now we can approve the letter as it stands, or the resolution as it stands. Do you want to do one more vote just for formality?
Sure.
You know, it's a good question. I think maybe by approving the amendments, we've approved the document, but I would be willing to make a motion that we adopt and approve the document as amended. And
All right, and I will second that. So we'll go back. Carlos
Yes.
and Tom
Aye.
and Peter
aye,
and Gwen, aye. Okay, so
Christian,
the resolution is approved to move forward
as amended.
as amended. And now let me try to get the letter. Carlos, you're not aware of this. I added a sentence, but I don't think I mean, as a possible amendment, but oops, let me fix that. But I would want your input on this. So this is just a cover letter. It's a very simple one. Again, addressed to the 4 parties, and it will have a CC, including the Attorney General, I believe it was, Mary?
Yes, the Attorney General, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it's regarding the resolution. The recent disaster in the port of Beirut once again reminds us of the risks posed by the Rancho LPG storage facility to the communities in the Los Angeles harbor area, the Port of Los Angeles, and Port of Long Beach. After the Beirut disaster, we believe it is important for the governor and mayor to take a lead in addressing the risks posed by the Rancho LPG facility. I'm going to read it without any amendment. We understand the difficulties involved, but we believe that the risks to the harbor area warrant renewed efforts by the governor, mayor, and to the extent within their power, by POLA and LAUSD to address these risks. The Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council passed this resolution, and then, this is just the formality should they pass it at the November meeting. Passed or did not pass this resolution, whatever. We look forward to your response to the resolution, and that's should they approve it.
I think that's fair because, as you said, you acknowledged risks in the letter, and there were no specific mentions of exact units or numbers, as was the case in the resolution. So I think this would probably be more palatable to any parties who may be interested.
Yeah, okay, I agree. If anybody has looked at the red line, if they think that that's extraneous and can be deleted, it was just a mention of, I was entertaining the idea of mentioning within that letter the new information about the slip strike fault, but then it would get longer because we would actually need to add some of the other concerns with rail transport and the rest of it. So
I like it as is.
I do too. Okay. All right. As is. Do we have a motion to vote on the letter? Or is that necessary?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we adopt and approve the letter as submitted.
Wonderful. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Tom seconds that. All right. So here we go. Carlos, approve the letter.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Peter,
Aye.
and Gwen, yes. So we have now approved the letter and the resolution. Thank you so much. Very much appreciate your input. Everyone who are the attendees, Christian, have you screenshotted and gotten a list of all of those names?
I did at the beginning and toward the middle. I'm going to take a second or a third look rather and
Okay.
see if there are any new names. I
Wonderful.
will.
Well,
We love students. Come to our meetings more.
and participate. This was a really complex, this was probably the most complex thing that we've worked on. This is a long process, and Carlos is an amazing person with a lot of technical expertise, and he, you know, there's been a lot of wordcraft in expressing what we need and being within a certain amount of legal parameters and everything. So I don't know how many of you are into this technical jargon and everything, but we do that, but we also do outreach. There's a lot of stuff that we do. And we would even, you know, if there's some way during this restricted time to come up with interactive, interesting, engaging things that get our community involved and interested in environment and sustainability concepts, God, we really want your help. And if you can even take it to your classes, that would be great, really honestly. And, you know, please. Now, let's see, do we still have the letter on there? Let me type in something real quick. You guys can screenshot it. I'm gonna give you my email. And my phone number. Any of you, feel free to call me if you're interested in any of this stuff. There's all sorts of opportunities and even more service opportunities in the community for, such as Feed and Be Fed. The Garden Church is one place, and then the school. What's the name of the street down there that the Science Center is?
It's on Berrywood, 2201 Berrywood Drive.
There are so many neat ways to get outdoors, get yourself in the dirt. Peter's.
Where are
Yeah,
get
we
down
all
and-
need to get out, you know?
as we say, get down and dirty.
Exactly. And I'm going to try to post the last meeting, which was at Friendship Park. I mean, at the superintendent for Friendship Park had a whole presentation. There's all sorts of really cool things that are going on up there. In fact, during this holiday season, they've got a couple of GPS games that they're doing, and it's pretty cool. So hopefully you can check them out and call up Friendship Park up on the hill. So that's it. I think that we can adjourn unless anybody has any questions. Peter?
Just a comment. Thank you, Gwen, and thank you, Carlos, for all your hard work on this. Much appreciated.
And
Well,
yes,
you're welcome.
thank you, Carlos.
Yes, Carlos, thank you.
I beg to
Thank
say
you.
that I'm not an expert. I was a GAO senior analyst, so I'm used to dealing with complex things like this, but then trying to be objective and fair and balanced. That's my whole career, that's what we strove to do at the GAO. So we can go forward with this, and I think we'll see what happens.
Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you, everybody, all the students. Really appreciate your attendance, and don't be afraid to plunge on in. We would love you to, you know, if you've got anything that you want to do, this is a great opportunity to just plunge on in. So, all right, with that, I adjourn the committee meeting, and thank you all. Thank you,
Power
Christian.
to the people.
All right, bye.
Don't forget to vote if you haven't already.
Yes, vote.
For those who,
Power, yeah.
for those who,
Power to the planet.
Yes.
yes.
Let's get that going.
Right.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Bye.
All right, leave. There we are.
Okay, good night, Gwen.
Good night.
I
Thanks.
will keep you posted on stuff at the farm.
Great, thank you. Let me see, stop recording. Here
Do
we
you want
go.
a pumpkin? I'll save one for you. They're pretty small. They're yellow.